Are you a Christian?
No.
Atheist?
Jewish.
You Jewish?
Yes.
You a Jew?
You got it.
You don't look like a Jew.
Well, nobody looks like anybody, that's sort of a sad thing to say about race and religion. We don't look the part,
So is your wife Jewish too?
She converted from Catholicism.
Really?
Yeah. Not for me. She did it before I met her.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And so you don't look like a Jew. I thought you were white.
I am white.
A white Jew.
Call me whatever you want to call me. When you look at Middle Easterners, I'm told they really do belong to the Caucasian race. I'm told that. I may be wrong. I haven't looked it up. But I've been told that. So if you're looking at somebody from Syria or Iran or Iraq, they're considered Caucasian, I think. You might want to check that out on Google, but that's what I've been told.
I was growing up, and I would see Jews somewhere, I think, but I didn't know the difference between a Jew and a white person. I just thought it was a white person. But since being out here and over the years, I have Jewish friends and things like that, I'm able to tell the difference sometimes, but not all the time. What do you think about the attack upon Israel and what's going on now in the country, all these protests, and they want to kill the Jews and all that crap?
Anti-Semitism, of course, is vile. It has no place in any society. The problem is it's old and it's endemic, and I don't know how we root it out, but we have to. I'm glad this administration is trying to put together a task force to deal with it. And I'm glad there are groups like the Anti-Defamation League which are dealing with it, or trying to, because it's wrong. Just like people who disparage African Americans, that's wrong. Or people who disparage Asians, that's wrong.
But I don't think that this administration liked the Jews very well.
Well, I don't know. You can make an argument both ways, but you've got a vice president whose husband is Jewish. Okay, you've got a president who seems to be talking the talk as far as supporting Israel and supporting the Jewish faith. Yeah, I think he's helping out. We can argue about that. But
my concern is that Biden is involved in telling Netanyahu how to fight this war over there. And if you listen to Biden, I don't think he's going to win.
Well, fortunately, Israel is a very independent, strong country.
Yeah.
They will do what they're going to do. They'll listen to somebody saying you ought to do this. Whether they take the advice is up to them.
Yeah. Are you afraid for your life right now?
No.
You're not afraid?
No.
Good. And why aren't you afraid?
Maybe I'm stupid, but I have not had any experience with direct anti-Semitism for a long time. I had it when I got out of law school. I saw an incident of it in law school with a professor who I am sure was anti-Semitic. In grade school and in high school, I never saw it because Beverly Hills at the time was easily 85–90% Ashkenazi Jewish.
Oh, okay.
And we were as assimilated as you'd ever want to be. We didn't see yarmulkes on the campus. People dressed and acted as if they were part of the mainstream of America. And even the non-Jews were as friendly to us as they could be.
Right on. I've noticed that Jews tend to be liberal. Not all, of course, because I know conservative Jews too.
Yeah.
Are you more conservative or liberal?
More conservative.
Why are Jews more liberal?
Good question, and I'm sure, depending on whom you ask, you're going to get different answers.
Right.
I can't sit here and tell you why, on behalf of the whole religion. There are, Jews who have felt that the Democratic Party helped them and, treated them very well. That could be a reason. There are Jews who feel now that the Democrats have abandoned them on the altar of political correctness or on DEI, and so they've become much more conservative.
Nice.
It depends on whom you ask.
How did you avoid becoming a liberal Jew?
Well, remember in the United States, study after study shows you that how you vote depends on how your parents voted.
Right.
Party identification runs with the parents.
Yeah.
My father was a very committed Adlai Stevenson Democrat, and my mother was a Democrat too. Stan was a Republican. Oh. And he actually, he had lived in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he was with a group of businessmen who recruited Gerald Ford to run for Congress. And his insurance broker was Richard Nixon's insurance broker when he came to California. And John Crable, the broker, became ambassador to Finland.
Amazing.
Stan was a very committed Nixon man. Okay, so now, for the first 11 years, I'm with my father,
Right.
all about Stevenson and Kennedy and how wonderful they are. But then in comes Stan, very committed to Nixon. And so I'm hearing it from both sides.
Right.
And then we add the factor of the Vietnam War. And I was furious with Lyndon Johnson. I didn't think he was running it well at all. And that sort of drove me out of the Democrats into the arms of the Republicans. And
Nice.
I interned for the Nixon campaign in '68.
Really?
Yeah. I worked with the national co-chair, Pat Hitt, worked with John Ehrlichman at the convention, Richard Kleindienst a little bit. If you recognize these names, Pat Hitt was the only one who got away without Watergate tainting. But Ehrlichman, we know what happened to him. Kleindienst, we know what happened to him. Haldeman, the whole gang. And the good news is I was recruited to be in the '72 campaign, but didn't do it. I got nervous, and even Stan, good Republican that he was, looked at what was going on and basically looked at the job offer they made to me, which was not exactly tempting.
Yeah.
And he said, this doesn't sound right. And so I turned it down, and I was very unhappy because that had been my goal,
Right.
to get back in the campaign and then go into the Nixon White House after law school. And the timing was perfect, but I turned it down and fortunately did. I never would have been a judge otherwise.
Amazing.
And one of the jobs I was offered was somewhat akin to what Donald Segretti did. He was convicted of several misdemeanors, and he was part of that Watergate dirty tricks
Right.
operation. And he's now back in the bar. He actually appeared in front of me one time.
Oh, yeah?
As a lawyer, he did a good job. He was a real gentleman.
Right on.
Yeah.
So I remember during that time, the Nixon time, I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to politics, but I used to get my hair cut with an old black guy. And he was really good barber, by the way, Jimmy. I have to say his name. May his soul rest in peace. And he told me that Richard Nixon was an amazing president, that he was a really good president, but he didn't think that most people recognized that. What do you say to that?
Your barber was right. He was an amazing president.
Yeah.
Watergate upended him. Other than Watergate, he was really good. He was brilliant in foreign policy. We could use him these days. He was extremely liberal. If you look back on some of the things he did, starting the Environmental Protection Agency, trying to help people out of poverty, he really had some good ideas and a lot of good policy.
Wow.
He was not a wild conservative. If he were alive today, he'd be drummed out of the Republican Party.
Wow.
They would have no use for him at all.
Amazing.
Nothing, nada. He'd be out.
Wow, that's interesting.